There will come a day when someone will test you, not with love, not with kindness, but with disrespect. It will come out of nowhere. It will catch you off guard. And in that moment, everything in you will want to respond. Everything in you will want to prove a point, to defend yourself, to remind them who you are. But let me tell you something, power is not in your response. Power is in your silence. When you know who you are, when you know your worth, you don't entertain what was sent to destroy you. You don't give energy to what was designed to distract you. Some battles are not meant to be fought with words. They are meant to be won with wisdom. And wisdom says, stay quiet, walk away, protect your peace. Because the moment you react, they win. The moment you stoop to their level, you lose sight of who you are. But when you stay quiet, when you refuse to engage in the chaos, when you choose growth over reaction, that is when you truly rise. There comes a moment when you realize that the greatest battles aren't the ones you fight with your hands, but the ones you fight with your mind. The battle to hold your peace when someone has disrespected you. The battle to stay silent when everything in you wants to lash out, to prove a point, to remind them exactly who you are. But silence isn't weakness. It takes more strength to walk away than it does to react. It takes more power to hold your tongue than to let your words run wild. Because anyone can react, but not everyone can ride. And when you are truly strong, when you are truly secure, you don't have to prove it to anybody. The world will tell you that silence means you're letting them win. That if you don't clap back, if you don't respond, if you don't set the record straight, then you're allowing people to walk all over you. But that's not the truth. The truth is, when you know who you are, when you are confident in your identity, you don't have to lower yourself to meet their level. You don't have to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't have to fight for a seat at a table that you were never meant to sit at. Some people disrespect you not because of who you are, but because of who they are. Because they don't know how to honor someone with strength. Because they don't know how to handle someone who refuses to be shaken. Because they are intimidated by the power you carry. And when they see you walking in your light, when they see you unbothered, when they see you refusing to entertain their negativity, it forces them to confront their own insecurities. That's why they try to provoke you. That's why they want to pull you into their storm. But when you refuse to engage, when you stay quiet, when you hold your peace, you let them know that their words have no power over you. It is easy to react. It is easy to let your emotions take control. It is easy to meet fire with fire. But what does that really do? What do you gain from stepping down from your peace just to match their disrespect? All it does is drain you. All it does is distract you. And all it does is give them the satisfaction of knowing they got to you. But when you stay quiet, when you keep walking, when you refuse to let their words shake you, you rob them of that satisfaction. You show them that you are bigger than the battle they are trying to start. Some battles are meant to be fought. Some situations require you to stand up and speak truth. But there are other battles that are nothing more than distractions in disguise. And if you waste your energy fighting every battle that presents itself, you will have nothing left for the ones that truly matter. Not every situation deserves your response. Not every attack deserves your attention. Some things are beneath you. And if you keep reaching down to pick them up, you'll never have the strength to reach for what's ahead. There is power in restraint. There is power in wisdom. And there is power in knowing that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on people who were never meant to have access to you. When you stay quiet after disrespect, you show that your self-control is stronger than their attempt to break you. You show that their opinion does not define you. You show that your character is greater than their chaos. And don't get it confused. Staying quiet does not mean staying silent. It does not mean tolerating mistreatment. It does not mean allowing yourself to be walked over. It simply means that you are choosing to respond with strategy instead of emotion, that you are choosing to elevate instead of engage, that you are choosing to protect your peace instead of proving a point. There is a reason they say lions don't concern themselves with the opinions of sheep. A lion does not need to roar to remind the world of its power. It simply carries itself with strength, knowing that its presence alone speaks louder than words ever could. You too have that same power. You too have that same ability to walk with confidence, knowing that your silence is not surrender, it is wisdom. So the next time someone disrespects you, the next time someone tries to pull you into a battle that is beneath you, ask yourself, do I really need to respond? Do I really need to waste my energy on this? Or is my silence the very thing that will show them I am stronger than they thought? Because at the end of the day, true strength is not in how loud you speak, but in how well you control the power within you. And when you learn to master your silence, when you learn to let your peace speak for you, you will realize that you never needed to fight the battle to win it. You just needed to rise above it. There is something about disrespect that makes you feel like you have to respond. It stirs something deep inside you, something that says, I cannot let them talk to me like that. I cannot let them get away with treating me like I'm nothing. And before you know it, you're standing there replaying the moment in your head, thinking of all the ways you could have clapped back, all the things you could have said to make them regret ever crossing you. Because human nature says, if they hurt me, I have to hurt them back. If they disrespected me, I have to make sure they know who they're dealing with. But here's the truth. Your response is your power. And if you allow someone else's words, someone else's negativity, someone else's brokenness to pull you out of your peace, you've just given them control over you. Because when you react in anger, when you respond out of pride, when you lower yourself to their level just to prove a point, you're not showing them your strength, you're showing them your wound. And not everyone who disrespects you deserves to see where you're still healing. It takes wisdom to understand that not every battle is yours to fight. It takes strength to recognize that some attacks are only meant to trigger the version of you that no longer exists. Because the old you, the one who used to respond with fire, the one who used to be quick with the comeback, the one who wouldn't let a single disrespectful word slide, she's been through too much to let small-minded people pull her back into battles that don't serve her anymore. She's grown too much to let petty words steal her peace. She's healed too much to let someone else's bitterness become her burden. People will try you. That's just the truth. They will push your buttons just to see if you'll react. They will say things they know will sting just to see if they still have access to the version of you that wasn't afraid to step into a fight. But just because they came for you doesn't mean you have to go with them. Just because they threw shade doesn't mean you have to stand under it. Because the moment you engage, the moment you give in, the moment you let their words dictate your actions, you've handed them power they never deserved to have. You don't have to fight to prove your worth. You don't have to respond to validate your presence. You don't have to explain yourself to people who were never interested in understanding you in the first place. Some people don't disrespect you because they don't see your value. They disrespect you because they do. They see your power. They see your growth. They see the way you've been rising. And instead of celebrating you, they try to shake you. Instead of applauding you, they try to pull you back to where they are. Because when people refuse to grow, they will do everything in their power to keep you from growing too. But you are no longer in the business of proving yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You are no longer wasting energy on conversations that will never lead to clarity. You are no longer explaining yourself to those who are determined to see you through the lens of their own insecurities. You have reached a place in your life where your peace is more valuable than their approval, where your purpose is greater than their opinions, where your destiny is bigger than their drama. So let them talk, let them assume, let them believe whatever makes them feel better about themselves. Because at the end of the day, your response is your power, and silence is the greatest response of all. Not because you're afraid to speak, not because you don't have words to say, but because your energy is too valuable to waste on anything that doesn't align with where you're headed. Growth will teach you that silence isn't about ignoring the disrespect. It's about refusing to let it change who you are. It's about understanding that your elevation requires your focus, and you cannot be both focused and distracted at the same time. It's about recognizing that just because they invited you to the argument doesn't mean you have to accept the invitation. You were created for greater. Your mind was designed for bigger. Your spirit was built for better. And the more you learn to hold your peace, the more you realize that their words, their opinions, their disrespect, none of it has the power to stop you. Because true power isn't found in how loudly you respond, but in how well you control what deserves your response in the first place. And when you finally understand that, when you finally walk in that wisdom, you'll realize that their words were never the problem. was the temptation to engage that was. So let them talk, let them assume, and let them wonder why you no longer react the way you used to. That silence, that control, that confidence, that's proof that you've already won. There comes a point in your life when you realize that not everyone is meant to go where you're going. Not everyone is meant to understand the way you move, the choices you make, the peace you protect. And sometimes that realization doesn't come in a moment of celebration or clarity. Sometimes it comes wrapped in the sting of disrespect. It comes when someone you trusted talks about you behind your back. It comes when someone who once clapped for you now rolls their eyes at your success. It comes when you start to notice that the people you thought were in your corner were only there as long as it was convenient for them. Disrespect is often the first sign that a door needs to be closed. But the problem is we spend so much time trying to keep doors open that we're never meant to stay that way. We want to prove our loyalty. We want to explain ourselves. We want to hold on to relationships that are breaking us because we don't want to admit that some people were never supposed to be permanent in the first place. But every time you try to hold on to what was, you delay what could be. Every time you try to force someone to respect you, to see your value, to recognize your worth, you are fighting for a seat at a table that wasn't built for you. And maybe that's the hardest part, realizing that some of the people you thought would walk with you forever were only meant to be in your life for a season. Realizing that some people only loved you when you were small, only clapped for you when you were struggling, only supported you when it served them. And the moment you started to rise, the moment you started to evolve, the moment you started to step into the fullness of who you are, they changed. Their energy shifted. Their words became sharper. Their support became silent. And now, instead of celebrating your growth, they test your patience. Instead of encouraging your journey, they try to belittle it. Instead of honoring the connection, they choose to dishonor you with their act. But you don't have to fight to keep people who are determined to misunderstand you. You don't have to beg for respect. You don't have to spend another second trying to make someone value you when they have already made it clear that they don't. Because elevation requires separation. Growth requires letting go. And sometimes the disrespect is just the confirmation that it's time to move on. You cannot carry everything and everyone with you. You cannot make room for the new while you are still holding on to the old. You cannot reach your destiny while dragging people who refuse to grow with you. And as much as it hurts, as much as it stings, as much as you wish things could go back to the way they were, you have to ask yourself, am I holding on to something that is holding me back? Because the truth is, some people are only in your life to keep you stuck, to keep you doubting yourself, to keep you questioning whether you are worthy of the next level. And every time they disrespect you, every time they try to make you feel small, every time they remind you of who you used to be instead of celebrating who you are becoming, they are revealing that they no longer deserve access to you. So let them go, let them talk, let them assume. Let them wonder why you're not engaging in the same arguments, why you're not explaining yourself over and over again, why you're not giving them the reaction they expected. Because silence is your answer. Growth is your response. Walking away is your power. Not everyone will understand your journey, and that's okay. Not everyone will respect your growth, and that's okay. But you were never meant to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for you in the first place. You were never meant to keep proving yourself to people who refuse to see you. You were never meant to stay where you are just to make other people comfortable. It takes strength to walk away. It takes wisdom to know when a chapter has ended. It takes power to recognize that you don't have to respond to disrespect to know who you are. And when you truly embrace that, when you finally stop explaining, stop reacting, stop trying to make people see your worth, you will realize that walking away from what no longer serves you is not a loss. It's a gain. It's freedom. It's the proof that you are finally ready for what's next. There is something about being disrespected that makes you want to rise up and defend yourself. Something inside you burns, telling you that you need to make it right, that you need to make them understand, that you need to correct their version of the story. But the reality is, some people don't want to understand you. Some people don't want the truth. Some people don't care about the full story. They just want a reaction. They want to know they can still push your buttons, that they still have access to your peace, that they still have the power to shake you. But when you reach a certain level of growth, when you've gone through too much, cried through too many nights, healed from too many wounds, you begin to realize that silence is sometimes the loudest response you can give. Not because you don't have the words, not because you couldn't match their energy if you wanted to, but because you refuse to waste your strength on battles that don't build you. Because every time you react, every time you engage, every time you lower yourself to their level just to prove a point, you give them power over you. And nothing should have that much power over your peace. They will call you weak for not clapping back. They will call you passive for not stepping into the argument. They will say you let them get away with it because you didn't match their energy. But strength isn't about meeting disrespect with more disrespect. Strength is knowing that your future is too big to be distracted by things that don't serve you. Strength is understanding that some battles are just noise designed to pull you away from your purpose. And when you recognize that, when you start to guard your peace, when you start to move differently, the same people who once had access to your emotions will start realizing that they can no longer reach you the way they used to. It's not that you didn't hear them. It's not that you didn't feel the sting of their words. It's not that you don't know exactly how to respond. It's that you've decided you are too powerful to be controlled by negativity. You've decided that their attempt to break you will not be successful. You've decided that your energy is too valuable to be spent on trying to prove yourself to people who were never going to respect you in the first place. And that's the part that stings, the fact that some people are committed to misunderstanding you. Some people have already made up their minds about who you are, about what you deserve, about how far you'll go. And no amount of explaining, no amount of defending yourself, no amount of proving them wrong will ever shift their perception. Because it was never about the truth, it was about their inability to handle your growth. You see, when you start evolving, when you start stepping into who you were meant to be, when you start making moves that don't require their approval, some people will take it personally. Not because you did anything wrong, but because your growth reminds them of their own stagnation. Because your peace reminds them of the chaos they refuse to heal from. Because your elevation highlights the fact that they are still in the same place they were years ago. And instead of looking within, instead of doing their own work, instead of addressing what's broken inside of them, they would rather try to bring you down to their level. But you've worked too hard to let that happen. You've fought too many battles, survived too many storms, come too far to let someone else's words pull you back into a place you no longer belong. And that's why you stay quiet, not because you don't care, not because you don't notice, not because you couldn't match their energy if you wanted to, but because you understand that some things are just distractions. And when you've got destiny calling your name, you don't have time to entertain every voice that tries to speak against you. So let them think what they want. Let them say what they need to say. Let them convince themselves that your silence means they won, because you know the truth. You know that every moment you choose peace over pettiness, every time you choose wisdom over warfare, every time you choose to let them talk while you keep walking, you are proving that their words have no power over you. And the more you practice that, the more you commit to that, the more you walk in that, the more unstoppable you become. There is a breaking point in every journey when you realize that your energy is sacred. You reach a moment when you look around at the weight you've been carrying, the opinions, the judgments, the unnecessary battle sand. You decide that you are done explaining yourself. You are done trying to prove your worth to people who have already made up their minds. You are done letting disrespect disturb your peace. Because when you know who you are, when you finally step into your power, when you truly believe that you were created for something greater, you stop letting small things shake you. Disrespect used to get a response out of you. It used to make you feel like you had something to prove. It used to make you feel like you needed to defend yourself, that you needed to clap back, that you needed to make them see who they were dealing with. But when you've healed, when you've grown, when you've matured, you no longer feel the need to validate your worth with words. Because you realize that people will only see you through the lens of their own understanding, and no amount of explaining will shift a mind that is committed to misunderstanding you. You see, when you react to disrespect, you are handing your emotions over to someone who never deserved access to them in the first place. You are letting their words dictate your peace. You are allowing their opinions to shake your foundation. But when you learn to stay quiet, when you learn to guard your energy, when you learn to sit in your power without needing to defend it, you take back control. Because your strength is not found in how loudly you responded, it's found in how deeply you know who you are. People will talk, they will criticize, they will test you, they will try to push you back into an old version of yourself that no longer exists. And if you are not careful, you will find yourself engaging in battles that do nothing but drain you. You will find yourself reacting to people who don't even deserve your attention. You will find yourself fighting wars that have nothing to do with your destiny. But when you step back, when you breathe, when you remind yourself that their words do not define you, you reclaim your peace. You shift your focus back to what matters. You remind yourself that your energy is far too valuable to be wasted on people who are only trying to distract you. Silence is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not avoidance. Silence is strategy. Silence is wisdom. Silence is choosing to let your elevation be your response. Because when you refuse to engage in negativity, when you refuse to entertain drama, when you refuse to give energy to things that do not serve your future, you are protecting what matters most, your purpose, your growth, your peace. And that's the thing about peace. It requires discipline. It requires restraint. It requires wisdom to know when a battle is not worth your time. Because some people will never respect you no matter what you say. Some people will never understand you, no matter how well you explain. Some people will never acknowledge your worth, no matter how much you prove yourself. So why waste your breath? Why waste your time? Why give them access to emotions they have no right to hold? Growth will teach you that your silence is your power. It will teach you that walking away is not losing, it's winning. It will teach you that when you refuse to engage in unnecessary battles, you are setting yourself free. Because every time you choose peace over pettiness, every time you choose wisdom over warfare, every time you choose to stay quiet in the face of disrespect, you are proving that you have already won. So let them wonder why you don't react the way you used to. Let them talk about you when you're not in the room. Let them assume whatever they need to assume. Because at the end of the day, their words cannot stop what has already been set in motion. Their opinions cannot block what is meant for you. Their disrespect cannot shake what is already yours. And the more you embrace that, the more you walk in that, the more you believe that, the more unstoppable you become. There comes a time when you stop explaining yourself, a time when you realize that the battles you used to fight, the arguments you used to entertain, the validation you used to seek, none of it is necessary anymore. Because when you've grown, when you've healed, when you've finally stepped into the fullness of who you are, you understand that your energy is sacred. And you no longer give sacred things to people who don't appreciate them. Disrespect has a way of pulling at your pride. It calls out to the part of you that still remembers how to fight, how to defend, how to prove a point. It makes you want to show people who you are, to remind them that you are not to be played with, to let them know that you see exactly what they're doing. But what if I told you that the moment you react, the moment you engage, the moment you step down to meet them at their level, you give away your power? Because that's the real test, not whether you can match their energy, but whether you can hold your own without stooping to theirs. You have been through too much, survived too much, learned too much to keep entertaining the same nonsense. You have outgrown the version of yourself that needed to prove something. You have outgrown the version of yourself that thought silence was weakness. You have outgrown the version of yourself that believed every battle required your response. And now you sit in the power that doesn't need to be loud. You walk in a confidence that doesn't need to be proven. You carry a strength that doesn't need to be defended. Some people will never respect you no matter what you say. Some people will never acknowledge your growth no matter how much you show them. Some people will always look for a way to tear you down even when you've done nothing but rise. And that's okay, because their inability to see your value does not decrease it. Their decision to misunderstand you does not change who you are. Their choice to walk in negativity does not require you to meet them there. It is not your job to fix their perspective. It is not your responsibility to correct their opinion. It is not your place to make them see what they refuse to acknowledge. Your only job is to keep walking, to keep growing, to keep evolving, to keep protecting your peace. And sometimes protecting your peace means saying nothing. It means not reacting when you know you could. It means choosing silence over chaos, choosing elevation over confrontation, choosing wisdom over the need to be right. You see, people expect a reaction. They expect you to snap back, to defend yourself, to prove your point. They want to pull you into an argument, to drain your energy, to make you forget who you are. But when you choose to stay quiet, when you choose to disengage, when you choose to let your actions speak louder than your words, you take away their power. You show them that you cannot be controlled, that you cannot be provoked, that you are no longer available for battles that do not build you. And that kind of strength, that kind of restraint, that kind of wisdom, it shakes people. It makes them uncomfortable. It forces them to look in the mirror and face themselves. Because when you no longer respond to disrespect, when you no longer entertain negativity, when you no longer give your energy to foolishness, people have no choice but to deal with themselves. And most of the time, it was never about you to begin with. It was about them, about their insecurities, about their need for control, about their own unhealed wounds. And once you realize that, once you truly see it for what it is, you stop taking it personal. You were not created to live in reaction mode. You were not designed to waste your energy on people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You were not placed on this path to prove your worth to those who refuse to see it. Your time is too valuable. Your calling is too big. Your peace is too precious. And the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop fighting for spaces that were never meant for you, you free yourself. So let them think what they want. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them misunderstand. Because while they're busy focusing on you, you'll be busy becoming everything they said you couldn't be. You'll be growing. You'll be evolving. You'll be stepping into new levels, new opportunities, new blessings. And when you get there, when you finally look back, you'll realize that staying quiet was never about losing. It was about winning in a way they never expected.